in that episode of Y'all-itics, I'm joined now by my colleague, Cole Sullivan. If you didn't know, Cole covers Dallas City Hall for us. And now that we've gotten kind of the pro side of these so-called hero amendments, we've got the side that's a bit more critical coming out against those amendments. All I heard was ST and U. If I'm at home watching, chilling, having my coffee, well, it's after 12 o'clock, so you might already be on your
Hey, it's going to be a late night. You're going to have some coffee. You got to keep it going through the night.
Go. Okay, Cole, tell me, what is Proposition S?
You know, I use a mnemonic device to remember these because despite covering this for months now, there are 18 propositions in the Dallas ballot. It's a long list. So S for me is sue. It makes it easier to sue the city's government, easy to understand there. There are some nuances with it, but essentially it makes it easier for folks to file lawsuits against the city. T ties the city manager's pay to a survey of about 1,400, minimum 1,400 city residents. If that survey result is low enough, the city manager in Dallas could be fired. And U, I don't have a great mnemonic for. It's the one that's left over. This is the one that's gotten a lot of attention from a lot of folks. It's about hiring 900 more cops. It forces the city of Dallas to hire 900 more cops. It also forces the city to use some new revenue dollars that come in and dedicate that to the city's pension fund. That's the one folks that I talk to at City Hall are most concerned about.
You've also reported quite a bit on the split between the unions that represent police and fire when it comes to these amendments. Can you break that down for us, where they fall?
Yeah, and it was interesting because this kind of announcement from both the fire and police unions came out late. They came out just before early voting started and the day that early voting started here in Texas. So first we heard from the firefighters. They're opposed to this, opposed to ST and U, but particularly U, and for a really unique reason. They, like pretty much everyone else, believe Dallas needs more police officers, but they're worried that that requirement that 50% of new revenue go towards the city's pension for police and fire, and then additional money from that also left over has to go to starting salaries for police. That's the key element that they're concerned about, and for a really interesting reason is because fire and police negotiate their salaries together. They have a meet and confer agreement. If there's something in the city charter that mandates a certain amount of money has to go to police specifically, they're worried that means fire gets left out.
There we go. Okay, Ron Kirk, just in that Y'all-itics episode, if you were listening, he talked about the fact that when it comes to public safety, most major cities across America, it's at least 60 to 65% of the budget. That's police and fire before you get to anything else. So when it comes to those city services, what has been the response from residents, people who live in Dallas who are voting on this today that you've talked to?
I think the biggest thing from people is confusion. And think about this, Dia. People are going, because there is a headline race on the ballot, the presidential race. People are showing up to vote for president, they're showing up to vote for Senate, and then in Dallas, the city of Dallas, they got 4 pages left. And so a lot of folks may not know. I mean, again, I confess, I cover this. I had to bring a piece of paper into the ballot box to know which propositions I wanted to vote which way on because it's just so confusing. ST and U are at the very end of the ballot, which could be a blessing or a curse for both sides in this debate because people are going to make it to the end of the ballot. If they make it to the end of the ballot, do they even vote on a proposition they don't understand? Do they read it for the first time and say, okay, 900 more police officers, yeah, let's get some more cops in Dallas and vote for it without understanding the mechanism that it goes through to pass? Or do they make it to the end of the ballot because they've heard the message from the people who are opposed to ST and U and say, you know what, I want to make sure my voice is heard, specifically on these last 3 amendments?
If you are watching us, hanging out at your house right now, before you go vote later today, maybe you got a streaming at work, one thing to note, if you go to WFAA.com right now, you can pull up a full sample ballot. Get familiar. You kind of want to have your plan in place once you get into the voting booth so you can knock it out and get out, especially if you've been in some of these long lines. Any other notes from particularly those hero amendments? Because I feel like you've been covering them for months now.
Yes, it's been a big topic for months now. And you heard in that Y'all-itics podcast, the pro-hero folks have really had the leg up. They got into it early, partially because they had to collect signatures to get these measures on the ballot. The opposition we've heard just coming in the last month or so, coming in very strong from a lot of different people, a united force from all the former living mayors of Dallas, all the city council members, the police chief, outgoing police chief Eddie Garcia, all opposed to it. The question is, does that message resonate with people? Does it get into their head as they walk into that polling location, into that voting booth, and do they know how they want to vote on this? This is not the charter amendments, all 18 of them, not one of them is written super clearly. It's not an election you can really wing it on, at least on the bottom of the ballot.
All right, Cole Sullivan's going to be out here in Dallas letting us know how those propositions do. A reminder,